What's up, guys? It is Corey from Super Kami Guru 9000, the best damn anime reviewing channel on YouTube. Now, it may come as no surprise, but I'm an ultra nerd of the highest order. I love everything about movies, comics, sci-fi, video games, anime, you name it, I love it. And that love just happens to extend to the Godzilla film franchise. And Godzilla just happens to be the most iconic giant movie monster of all time. So you can imagine I'm really excited about the brand new reboot/remake of Godzilla. It is a complete remake of the incredible classic 1954 kaiju movie, Gojira. So my excitement is going through the roof. So in honor of the return of the King of the Monsters, I'm going to count down my top 10 favorite Godzilla movies. Now keep in mind, these are just my personal choices, so there's a good chance your favorite is not going to make it on the list, and if you're just a casual fan of Godzilla or know nothing about the Big G himself, think of this list as sort of my recommendations for some movies to check out. So, without further ado, here is my top 10 favorite Godzilla movies. Godzilla vs. Megalon makes it on the list for one very important reason, and that is Jet Jaguar, the giant robot. Now, this movie's great because it's a four-way monster battle. It's Godzilla going up against the classic monster Gigan, and also this brand new monster known as Megalon, which is this big monstrous beetle with drills on his hands. But the reason this movie is so incredible is because Godzilla teams up with this massive, size-changing robot by the name of Jet Jaguar, who frankly just looks absolutely hilarious. And that's because he was actually created by an elementary school student in this little competition they had back in the day. And he really makes the movie. He's hilarious, and he's practically useless at the same time. But this movie is just a joy to watch, if only to see Godzilla do that dropkick 2 times in a row, which is one of the most classic moments of the entire series. And this is also the only movie on the list where I'll actually suggest watching the Mystery Science Theater 3000 version. It is a laugh riot. Check it out. Number 9 on the list is Invasion of the Astro Monster, otherwise known as Monster Zero. In this movie, I can only say why it's unique for one specific reason: Godzilla in space. This movie, you actually get to see Godzilla and Rodan going up into space on the moon and fighting against King Ghidorah, where they eventually take it to the Earth and have this 3-way monster brawl, which is really exciting. The real reason why this is number 9 on the list, though, is the Godzilla dance. Look it up. Mothra vs. Godzilla is not the first time that Godzilla has gone up against a classic monster before, but the reason why Mothra vs. Godzilla is such an important film to me is because it finally establishes how unstoppable Godzilla is. In this movie, the military throws everything at Godzilla: planes, bombs, missiles, guns, explosions. Nothing works against him in this movie. Only a giant monster. This is the movie that truly established that if you're going to go up against Godzilla, you better have another monster with you. Godzilla vs. King Ghidorah from 1991 is one of the most flashiest sci-fi filled adventures that Godzilla has ever had. The story is incredibly convoluted but absolutely hilarious. It actually goes back to the origins of Godzilla, when you got to see that he was originally known as a Godzillasaurus, which essentially is just a big T-Rex. But the story is great. It involves these time travelers coming back from the future and trying to replace Godzilla with another monster, which just happens to be the 3-headed dragon King Ghidorah. So now they have to bring Godzilla back to take out Ghidorah, but now Godzilla's back. So now they gotta get King Ghidorah back, make him into a giant cyborg creature known as Mecha King Ghidorah, and now they're fucked again! The movie is absolutely hilarious, has great production value, and features some of the most unique monster battles from the series, and is easily one of the best King Ghidorah movies of the entire Godzilla franchise. Godzilla Final Wars is on crack. That's all I have to say. It's basically a remake of Destroy All Monsters, and it features a lot of Godzilla's classic foes. The reason why this movie is so entertaining is strictly that. It has constant entertainment value. Typically in a Godzilla movie, there's usually the monsters fighting, and then there's the people who are talking, usually scientists talking about how they're going to stop the monster. Sometimes there's another little subplot going on. In this movie, they say screw that shit, and they decide that everybody's gonna start fighting. There are aliens attacking the Earth, there's humans who have these superpowers fighting up against them, and then of course there is Godzilla, who is killing every monster on the planet, and literally almost every monster from the entire franchise makes an appearance. Everybody from Mothra to King Ghidorah to Anguirus, Kumanga the giant spider, King Caesar, they're all there. But easily, the reason this one is on the list is because there is an actual battle between Godzilla and the 1998 American version of Godzilla. And what seems like a bit of retaliation from the Japanese fans, the actual Godzilla takes out the 98 Godzilla in one hit from his atomic breath. It's oh so satisfying, and it's incredible to watch. If you just want to see a Godzilla movie that's just going to be a big spectacle, check out Final Wars. It's the shit. Godzilla vs. King Kong is about as classic as it gets. Just the concept of these two classic monsters going up against each other is incredible, and it's what sort of started the entire giant monster battling kaiju genre. That's not to say that Godzilla hasn't fought against other monsters before. In fact, the movie before this, he fought against his very first foe, Anguirus. But Godzilla vs. King Kong is great, because they actually gave King Kong something of a chance in the battle, because the actual King Kong would not be able to fight against Godzilla. He's like the size of his foot. But they beefed him up, they gave him some electrical powers, which that's because originally King Kong was supposed to be Frankenstein's monster. Can you imagine Godzilla versus Frankenstein's monster? That would be kick-ass. But Godzilla vs. King Kong sort of set the groundwork for the entire series of the Godzilla versus, especially the ones that you saw in the 60s and the 70s. It definitely had some more of a comedic tone, but it was also still just a really fun movie, and it was just a spectacle. If there was ever a remade movie for Godzilla, it would have to be Godzilla vs. King Kong. Godzilla vs. Mechagodzilla from 1974 is, for me personally, one of the most nostalgic movies ever, because it is the very first Godzilla movie that I was ever introduced to. I got it on VHS as a kid, and I was completely entranced by this movie. What's really great about it is it introduces one of Godzilla's greatest foes, Mechagodzilla, which is essentially just a giant robotic version of himself. But the actual story is really, really awesome, especially how it starts, when suddenly Godzilla is just destroying everything all over the world. He beats the crap out of Anguirus by literally ripping his jaw in half. And then later, Godzilla comes, starts to knock all of his skin off, and that's when we get the big reveal of this massive metal Godzilla, which has so many powers, from finger missiles to toe missiles, lasers, he can fly. Mechagodzilla is one of the most classic Godzilla enemies, and he's been seen in almost every single Godzilla film series, and frankly, he's one of the monsters I would love to see rebooted if this whole new Godzilla franchise really starts to kick off. It wouldn't be a Godzilla Top 10 without the original 1954 movie, Gojira or Godzilla King of the Monsters. This movie is interesting because there are actually a couple different versions of the film. The first one that I saw was actually the American version, where they actually added in this American actor by the name of Raymond Burr, who's more popularly known as Perry Mason a little bit later on. But they added his scenes to sort of explain what's going on with Godzilla as he's attacking Tokyo. However, this is one of the few instances of the entire top 10 list where I'm going to say, watch the Japanese version. It's got a completely different tone. This is the one that really started Godzilla, and it really portrays him as a force of nature. He's sort of like the revenge against mankind, because this is all coming after the atomic bombs from Hiroshima, Nagasaki. World War II had just ended, and basically this is like the physical manifestation of nature's hatred against mankind. And the movie itself is very somber, it's very sad, and they treat it as if it was an actual disaster that really happened. And that's the tone of the film that they're actually going to use for the brand new Godzilla movie, so I can't wait to see where they're going with it. But they're actually adding in a brand new monster for the new Godzilla movie too, so that's sort of giving us elements of both the classic original Godzilla and the newer Godzilla movie. So check out the original Japanese version. It is definitely one of the most classic giant monster movies of all time. Godzilla, Mothra, and King Ghidorah, Giant Monsters All-Out Attack. This movie needs a shorter title, but damn it, it has got some awesome production value, and it also features my very favorite version of Godzilla ever. In this movie, Godzilla's look is just, frankly, terrifying. His eyes are completely whited out, and he's just a force of pure destruction. And what is an ironic twist for this movie is that King Ghidorah is actually not a villain. He's actually a good guy, and he actually has to team up with both Mothra, and they go up against Godzilla, and the movie just looks incredible. That's really the only way I can describe it. It's got some of the best production value of any Godzilla movie by far, and it's got a ridiculous sounding title. My number one choice for favorite Godzilla movie is Destroy All Monsters. This is essentially the ultimate Godzilla movie from back in the day. It was a collection of all of the classic Godzilla monsters. Godzilla, his son, Anguirus, Gorosaurus, Rodan, Mothra, Manda, King Ghidorah, they're all there. There's like a million that I didn't even mention, some of which only make very small cameo scenes. But the concept is simple. It's basically aliens coming down to Earth, controlling all of the monsters, and trying to destroy the world. And eventually all of the monsters meet at the base of Mount Fuji, and all team up against the three-headed dragon, King Ghidorah, and all I can say is, it's just incredible. All of the monsters get to do something cool, they all have to show off their special powers, and it's really just the perfect way to end the classic Godzilla film series, although we all know now that that was not the end. In fact, Godzilla seems like it's going to have a very bright future with this brand new reboot. I don't know if there's going to be any sequels after it, and a lot of people really want to see a Godzilla vs. Pacific Rim movie. I honestly wouldn't mind. I think it would be really awesome. All I know is, this was my top 10 favorite Godzilla movies, and I love this film series. If you're into giant monster movies at all, I highly recommend watching these. I recommend watching them with friends, with pizza and beer. They just happen to make it really, really entertaining. And I only said it for Godzilla vs. Megalon, but if you can actually find some of the Mystery Science Theater 3000 versions of the Godzilla movies, check them out. They're absolutely hilarious, and they end up being really quotable when you watch them in that form. So that is my top 10 favorite Godzilla movies, but do you guys have any favorite Godzilla movies that I did not mention? You can tell me with your comments below. Also, if you have your very own top 10 Godzilla movies list, please tell me with your comments as well. Remember guys, before you leave today, make sure and hit that like button so you can give this video a thumbs up. It's really, really easy to do, and it helps out our videos tremendously. You can also check us out on Facebook and on Twitter, and if you'd like, you could donate directly to Super Kami Guru 9000 to help support our page. So, I will see you next time, guys. Super Kami Guru 9000. Out.